Yet another season. I think this show became one of the signature shows at Unified. I know you guys love it, and we always listen to you when we pick our topics. So today is no different. We picked Area 51, Area 52, and everything that's related to some secret projects that CIA and other intelligence agencies do not want you to know about. Please introduce yourselves.
Well, I'm Ron James. I'm the Media Relations Director for the Mutual UFO Network, and I'm also a filmmaker who's done probably hundreds and hundreds of hours of finished productions covering nature of reality, life after death, and the UFO topic. And my latest films are Accidental Truth that came out in April of 2023, and my next film, Accidental Truth Next, is coming out in December.
My name is Mark Hanalla. I go by You Won't Believe Me on short form content, so Instagram and TikTok, and I cover basically anything that has to do with conspiracies, breaking news, and a little bit of politics.
It's amazing. I love your content. A special occasion when I can get Jason to come down in a studio and do this with us is a special occasion. So welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Guys, we have, we laugh about Area 51 and stuff like that because everything that used to be a conspiracy theory kind of came true. And like we're running out of content at this point, like everything is true. So we laugh about this, but it's a very serious matter. And what's happening in our country is directly affected by all of this stuff. So it is no laughing matter, and I want to get serious today. I want to cover every single thing there is to cover about Area 51, why these facilities even exist. Do they just do some advanced technology work there, or do they do some other stuff we don't know about, like bioweapons, or maybe even aliens? I know you've got some stuff to talk about.
I like the alien topic a lot.
Alien topic, that's right.
A whole lot.
Especially now.
Guys, well, let's begin. It all started somewhere around 1950s when the United States was locked in a technological battle with the Soviet Union, or at least that's the narrative they put it out there. Like, they wanted us to believe that, hey, Soviets are advancing and we have to do something to counter this advancement. But what really doesn't add up for me is that this is a battle-hardened country. 27 million was lost after World War II. Soviet Union had no ability to fight anybody or develop some spy planes or whatever. Like they were really, on their knees. But that's the narrative they used. And then this narrative would become the mainstream narrative for military-industrial complex to turn this country into militarized kind of secret program, if you will. And they used this to take taxpayers' money, fund things like Area 51, fund bioweapon projects that, we saw with COVID and many others. And one of the first ones actually was Area 51 and Area 52. So you know a lot about that. So you can chime in and tell us, and then I'll go on with what we know.
Well, it was shortly after World War II ended, and the Soviet Union did take an aggressive posture. They rapidly pursued the development of nuclear weapons. Where Area 51 came in is that they were looking for a place to test new technology. They needed to be able to literally spy on the Soviet Union. So one of the things that they came out with at first, in addition to balloons, was this idea that we'd create the U-2 spy plane. And this is the beginning of Lockheed Martin Skunk Works and where all of this stuff kind of came from. And so they were flying over the Southwest, literally looking for a place to build this base. And they spotted Groom Lake, and they realized it was already a perfectly flat runway. It was a great place. It was out of the way. Let's build the base here.
And just
Let's
close
build
enough,
the plane.
right, to the
Nevada
test facility. And it was the pilot called Tony LaVere, if I'm not mistaken, who did this whole thing. And it started with the initiative of Richard Bissell, which is a very important figure because Bissell, guys, is the same guy who Kennedy kicked out of the CIA. And he did it because CIA, back in the day, much like today, has this idea like in their heads because they are very narcissistic and sociopathic. I mean, it's not my idea. They say that
That's
about
a prerequisite
themselves.
for a CIA
Right.
That's how you get into it.
You have to be
Exactly.
mentally messed up just to get admitted to the club.
Back in the day, I feel like they just had even like more audacity to do these things. Because they convinced Kennedy that Bay of Pigs was a legit operation. The thing is, after that, Kennedy got really pissed with the CIA, and he was like, we should have listened to the military. Many generals said that this would not work out the way the CIA wanted. And somehow from one failure to another, they had this idea that, why don't we do this again? And then they built a base. By the way, this is CIA's initiative. So this is not military. They are using military people, as you know, but this is CIA's initiative to go and work on high reconnaissance, military attack, and also U-2 spy planes and so on. But the question I have, guys, why is that CIA's job? CIA is an organization that's supposed to just go out there in different countries and retrieve intel, turn spies. I mean, it's not their job. It's
let's face it.
Military's job.
If you're the CIA, especially the CIA
Right.
of that era, because these guys were doing incredibly horrible things with absolute impunity.
Yeah.
They were answerable to nobody. And if the CIA gets wind that we're building a secret base in the middle of nowhere where pretty much anything can happen, the CIA's, of course, are going to get involved. They're going to take over. They're going to do whatever they can. What could possibly go wrong with that?
So there's one thing I want to add there to play devil's advocate on purpose, because I just had this idea as we spoke about it. So the FBI is meant to do internal work, right, inside the country. The CIA is meant to do outside of the country.
Right.
Well, there's one thing I don't think we're speaking about yet. Before the 1950s, I think it was 1947, Roswell. So there's this crash. They said extraterrestrial life, there's this UFO. Then they kind of blew it over and said, no, it was a weather balloon, which is a bunch of nonsense and BS. And it's possible, although there's a lot of corruption here, and I don't trust the CIA for a second, it's possible that if we go according to the narrative of the CIA needs to deal with things outside of the country, well, does that apply to outside of the planet? And if it does, then while Area 51 may be used for a million different types of things, both bad and interesting experiments, I personally think that 1947 Roswell incident is a very, very big prerequisite that was leading to Area 51, alongside everything that you're bringing up with Soviet Russia and all that.
I mean, it could be it could be that all elements came together, right? And this kind of happened, but and I want to dive into that aspect of things too. But we should finish first the military, story of
Sure.
what they did, and I want to bring in Area 52 as well. You know a lot about that as well.
So, you bring up this whole thing that happened back in the 40s with Roswell and how it's potentially connected. According to David Grush and a lot of evidence that we've been able to dig up, they actually found a craft in Italy that the United States got a hold of, and that was in the 30s. And that's really what was the beginning of all of this. And then we had Roswell, and the CIA was involved, but right after Roswell was when they got together and formed the MJ-12 group. Now, it could have been called that, it could have been called something else, but it only makes common sense that you would create a group of people to study the topic and figure out what to do with it. They'd be answerable to the president and probably nobody else. The CIA and all these other intel agencies have always been on the fringe of this and involved in it. They're all kind of working together, but it was this core group that moved things forward. And so that's kind of how that whole thing came out of the late 40s into what we call the modern era of the UFO deception.
So you're tying it to the 30s, and I'm sorry to get off track of the story.
Well, it's important because
it's really important.
Yeah,
So
of course.
With the 30s, I mean, let's talk about Hitler for a second. I know the Nazis
that's
had
a
a
whole
lot
other thing.
of connections to wanting to try and reverse engineer. There are a lot of theories around there, but there are actual diagrams showing, like literal blueprints, as I'm sure you know, showing, number one, potentially what they were doing in their base in Antarctica.
Right.
Connected to things like Area 51. If you look at Area 51 versus their base in Antarctica, same principle. In the middle of nowhere, only they did a much better job in Antarctica, and they're trying to reverse engineer this thing. So I brought it up because I wanted to start even earlier than the 50s, because I think the 50s is the middle of the story.
Probably was this whole thing prompted people to go secretive.
I think it started with extraterrestrial life. This is my opinion. I think it started with extraterrestrial life. They saw advanced technology. Sure, could the Russians be advanced? Great. But nothing compares to the technology.
Yeah, of course.
I
don't buy this, narrative that they did it only for Russians. Yeah, it was.
I mean, what are they going to say? Hey, guys, we have aliens on the ground, and we got to. You can't say that.
Yeah, of course.
Well, the new moniker is non-human intelligence, because there seems to be a growing consensus that these things might not necessarily be from another planet. At least not some of them. There might be an advanced race that has survived, ongoing destructive periods on the planet Earth underground, and could be way more advanced than us. us have been here all along. So there's a growing kind of thought pattern that this is all interconnected and that there may be many different life forms interacting with us. And so that's why the Pentagon and the government is getting away with saying, oh, well, we can't confirm that they're extraterrestrial because they know that maybe some of them at least aren't. And so that plays into this whole thing that was going on back then, and it plays into how Hitler got a hold of technology. It plays into what they were doing in Antarctica. It plays into the UFOs over the Capitol, you know, and it's all so interconnected. But then I know we want to bring it back to Area 51 and what role it might have played.
Absolutely. I mean, you know, here's what never made sense to me, and we can talk about this and kind of expand as much as we want. So they would gather this secret budget, what we call black budget, right? And sometimes it was from military appropriations. Sometimes it was from, you know, some dark money. And we know the CIA is a pro at this. Like they will do whatever they can, whether it's partnering up with some, you know, gang members or whatever. They will do whatever they can to secure money for their secret projects. So we know that this was happening, but what else were they doing is the question. So get these guys, in 1968, 6,000 ship die in just one day. What's amazing about this is they were screaming at everybody that they had no idea how this happened. It must be some kind of weird phenomenon, whatever. It's just the usual deal. They don't know anything, right? Then thanks to some very, very brave Utah people in government, now we know that they accidentally released VX agent, which is like pretty much poison, like it's a nerve agent, right? And they killed all this ship. What we don't know is, did they just kill ship, or was you know, were there any humans that also died? Because they covered it up originally so well, we don't know anything about them, right? We just now know that they accidentally did it. But that was not the only time when they made a mistake. From the same exact facility in 2015, they shipped multiple viruses, including anthrax virus. Remember the anthrax thing? So get this. This is why this stuff is very, very dangerous. So they were supposed to ship this virus in different labs, but it was supposed to be kind of disarmed virus, right? But accidentally, they shipped live spores. So
accidentally.
Yeah, accidentally. Well, I actually believe it was an accident, because here's what happened. So they shipped it to different labs, and the first one to identify that this was a live virus was Maryland facility. And they were like, guys, are you crazy? Like, what are you doing? And they lied again about this, that we only shipped it to 4 facilities. Not a big deal, guys, all good. Turns out they shipped it to 48 in different states. And they also shipped it in Italy and France. So we got extremely lucky that it was not a major. Imagine like if it had been something more severe than COVID. Like they are experimenting on anthrax and other bioweapons, and they are shipping them with this negligence. Imagine if it was something worse than COVID. And what's crazy is that when Bissell put this facility together, he somehow forgot to inform the president about it. And he somehow forgot to inform Congress about it. I mean, I guess the people that run this country, they are not supposed to know. But CIA is so smart, like they can't even ship the virus like in a right way, but they are so smart that only they get to that level.
It just shows you how little power the president has.
Yeah, absolutely. He's just
a game.
I feel like if we never had social media, there'd be so many operations and so many hidden things that would still be hidden till this day, like what you're saying right now. Because, I mean, the media was so controlled back then, still kind of is today, but you just go on X or you make a video, everyone knows what's going on, and that's how we know all this information now. But imagine social media never came out, everything would still be hidden, and things could be so much worse today, I feel like.
It's much harder to control.
Right.
When we're the ones with...
I think they're the ones freaking out now.
Well, they are. That's a really good point.
They're the ones freaking out.
If you look at what's happening in Congress and the way they're trying to unroll this whole UFO thing with like Arrow saying, oh, nothing to see here, and the Pentagon with one story and witnesses in Congress and all of us in the UFO community with a whole other story, that they used to be able to get away with that. What we saw unroll in Congress starting 2017 was an exact replay of what they did in the late 50s with Samford and looking into all of this officially, and then concluding there was was nothing. They're just repeating that same playbook. The problem is exactly what you just said. Social media makes it impossible to get away with. And that's what they're dealing with now as they rolled out this new narrative in 2017 that, there was nothing that happened after Project Blue Book until Bob Bigelow and his program started. And they tried to convince us all that whole time in between when they were making leaps and bounds in technology never happened. No, nothing was going on. Only they got caught red-handed and totally discredited. And so now they're having to roll back that narrative and come up with something new. But we're seeing it all drag out in Washington. What you said about the CIA, these guys, all of these intel agencies are completely out of control. They're answerable to people that are secretly running the world that we don't know. We don't know who they are. And we've known this for years and years and years. But, back to Area 51, they literally used it. They developed the SR-71 Blackbird there. Right. They developed the stealth fighters. So it was doing a lot of that kind of thing. But it also, I think, became the go-to place. It's like, well, hey, if you got to keep something a secret and it has to do with stuff in the air or it has to do with chemicals you need to burn or experiments you want to do, where else would you do it? So everybody got in on the game. Area 51 became a catch-all for all things classified. And that's where it's been ever since.
I think there's so many layers to it that no matter how much we want to talk about it, we'll never actually know what's going on. But I think you bring up a really good point when it comes to the difference between the black budget and a secret program. With the F-35s, it was a secret program. We knew
we needed money for the secret program. And, you could keep F-35 and B-2 bombers and all of that as a secret program and then justify in Congress the money that you needed for a secret program. You think anyone would oppose that?
Yeah,
no. Exactly, because you already have the evidence. You come back with F-35 and, hey, guys, your billions of dollars went to this duck that doesn't fly, but at least we have it, So you can justify that. You don't
I think
need
the problem, though, is... To my way of understanding why it would have to be the black budget as opposed to a secret program is if nobody can know even the outcome of what the secret program would be.
Right. Exactly right.
And if it has to do with extraterrestrial life, it's black budget. And quite honestly, I understand it. Yeah. Well, if it comes from that perspective, listen, as much as I don't like the people that run this world, most of them we don't know. You cannot go to 8 billion people and say, hey guys, there are life forms that are smarter than us with technology greater than ours, and we're trying to catch up to them. That would cause havoc.
That would do more harm than good.
That would cause havoc. So if I was in that situation outside of the psychopaths, I would call for a black budget as opposed to a secret program because you have more coverage that you can block on a black budget than you can on a secret program. The problem is the people running the black budget are sick in the head.
Yeah, that's exactly where we come to.
That's the problem.
No one disagrees that, just for the purposes of no panic and so on, we get that. But then what the deal is with the Anthrax cases, excuse my language, why are you experimenting on the black budget and now we know never went through a safety committee?
That's the sick in the head part.
Yes.
Well, these people that have the will to grab that kind of power, it takes a certain mentality to even want to do that. And that mentality tends to be morally flawed and free of ethics and regret and feelings. It's a psychopathic personality
there is no empathy
that grabs power. And so we have people that have gotten a hold of this information, this knowledge, and literally unlimited money. I mean, it's like you were saying, well, there's black budgets. Well, a black budget might give us a stealth fighter. Right. There's the impossible, never, ever going to be accounted for budget that we're never going to know what that gave us. And it's the majority of money that's disappeared out of the budgets for years.
Like around September 11, what was it, like $6 trillion or something?
Yeah, and the Pentagon's never been able to account a single time for its budget. And so, these guys they've got control of this technology. They're using it for their own agenda for humanity, which is not necessarily good. And then they're accountable to nobody. And these are the people that we need to bring. We're never going to bring them to the surface. We're probably never going to get the truth out of the government. But the knowledge that they have, keeping it from us is a crime against humanity, literally. And it's got to come forward, and we have to seize control back. I don't know if we can. And when we talk about the alien thing, it's context, right? Jason, if somebody came to you and said, hey, there's non-human intelligence, it's been around us for years, we're working on it, everything's fine, then people are pretty much going to go on. They're going to go to work the next day. They're going to keep paying their bills. And they're just going to go, yeah, we knew it all along.
But we're forgetting about the religious groups. Now you're going to hear alien, demonic, kill, this, that. I mean, we've taken this narrative that I think is very convenient for people that want to control us. Because look at the technology. I mean, we've had, 70, 80 years now of disclosures starting to come to the surface. We have videos of us shooting missiles at them and them leaving. So the idea of the threat to national security and all that, not so much. Maybe, but so far we haven't seen that. On the flip side, if they're that advanced and they're not a threat, then maybe they actually have something to offer.
Right.
But if they have something to offer, whether it's a different form of technology, not using fossil fuels, not using gas, oil, things like that, harnessing electricity the way Nikola Tesla wanted to do, who has the greatest motive to stop that? And it's the people that sell you the electricity, the oil, and the gas.
Exactly.
Very simple.
Power and energy is the thing that enslaves the entire human race. When you distill it down to its common denominator, whoever controls the electrical outlet controls everything. And so if there is a technology, and a lot of people believe that there is, that would literally put a box in your garage that could fuel your home and charge your car, well, that changes the entire power structure on the planet. It lays out the playing field, makes it equal, makes everybody able to have a certain amount of prosperity, and they don't want that.
No.
And so that's one of the biggest reasons that this deception has gone on for as long as it has. And
It's like so deep, it's hard to pull ourselves
I have a
out of it
question
at
though.
this point. Yeah.
If you guys had power over whatever they're hiding, whether it be extraterrestrial beings, technology that is just light years ahead of us, and you knew that if it went out and people knew about it, I feel like it would do a lot more harm than good, because people would be outraged. I don't think they would just take it and move on with their day. And I think that's part of the reason why they keep it hidden, whatever they have, even if they have something. But I feel like you guys are saying they should just release it because it's a crime against humanity, which it is. But what if they're doing it for a greater good? Because they're like, people would be outraged if someone gets a hold of this technology and copies it. It ruins all of the tech leaders of the world, like NVIDIA,
that's
Meta.
what they're saying.
No. I think both can be true.
Yeah, but see, the second tier of this is accountability.
Right.
The first tier is the power.
Two sides to it.
Then there's what these people have done. There's going to be a need for accountability. It's like, and that's the other thing they're trying to avoid. It's the second. There's three things that are making them keep.
Yeah, but what Mark's saying is a good point. If we're saying, like you said earlier, it's a crime against humanity to hold certain things like they're doing in Area 51. On the flip side, we're also saying you can't give everything out because it could create chaos. And there's a fine line. I don't know what that line is.
Because
Yeah,
we don't know what
really
it is. Is
But
it
we
too
got-
powerful that it will cause that outrage? Or is it something like the video they just released? Oh, it's something dodged a missile. Yeah, that's crazy, but everyone moves on with their day.
Right.
We don't know what it is. And
Because
that's the
they're
thing.
so desensitized. And another thing I wanted to ask, so, okay, let's say those beings are there, okay? And I have my own skepticism around this whole thing, but let's say they are there and they have something to offer. Well, if they are as advanced as we say they are, they probably can see through the psychopathic leaders of the world. Why would you not interrupt?
One
And
second.
why would
Wait.
you not do anything?
No. I got to answer that one. Number one, mathematically speaking, they must exist. There's no room for doubt there. Mathematically, if you go according to the unit, I'm not talking about opinion here.
Yeah.
I'm giving you straight
No,
math.
I understand. Okay,
Yeah.
let's say they exist.
There
and
must-
they're advanced.
there must be
then
other
Why
line.
not get involved? So here's the thing.
Because
human instinct-
I don't know that answer, but me and you cannot try to understand something that's at a different level of awareness. What that awareness is, I don't know. But let's say me and you are 4 years old. We have a father that's 40 years old. And the father is not doing what we think the father should do, but he has 36 years more experience than we do.
Right,
So
I
he's going to
understand.
operate differently, but me and you, the 4-year-olds, are going to be
So
like,
you're
why
saying-
isn't he doing that?
No, I get your
When
point.
we're 40,
You're
we'll
saying
understand.
There's got to be some kind of rules that they don't want to mess up.
Not necessarily rules. It could be rules. It could be an understanding. I'll give you a perfect analogy. If you're in a canyon and you're whitewater rafting, there's two different perspectives. There's you in the raft, and there's you 1,000 feet above the raft.
Right.
You will operate that raft differently if you're in the raft versus 1,000 feet above. Because 1,000 feet above, you may see that there's a waterfall with a very big drop. So the 1,000 feet above will say, hold on to a rock right away so you don't move. But you on the ground will be like, why am I holding on to this rock? We're having a good time.
Exactly.
You know what I'm
so
saying?
That's my point, though. So they all obviously see the waterfall, but they're not telling us to hold on to a rock. That's my point. We have psychopathic leaders that are causing so much death and so much problems, and they're not telling us
Well,
to
that's
hold
not
on to a
true.
rock.
That's
Yeah.
not true. There are endless stories. I don't know if you've seen The Phenomenon.
Yeah.
The Phenomenon, there's the aerial school phenomenon.
Right.
In the 1900s, I think. School phenomenon, that whole story was, believe it or not, I'll give you an answer
Right.
to what you're saying here. There were like 100 or 200 children. They all saw the same exact thing. This craft landed, these weird beings
Things,
came
yeah.
out. They took every single kid, they were like 11 years old. They took every single kid into different rooms. They all drew the same exact thing. They can't play telephone without messing it up. And they did this, right? They brought Harvard professors. They brought psychologists, leading world-renowned psychologists to understand what's going on here. And they all said, listen, they're telling the truth. I don't know what they saw, but they're telling the truth. Now, what did the kids say? They said, these beings didn't say anything to us,
Right.
but we understood something. And they asked, what was the message? And the message was, you're destroying yourselves with your technology. And if you keep moving forward, you will self-destruct. So they are interfering. They're not doing it for us, but they're telling. And that's one of a million
Yeah.
examples.
No, I understand that.
There's
It's just,
a huge school of thought that says that there's like a variety of alien species that have like a loosely formed galactic federation, and that's a lot of people think that. Some people in government have come out and said that, and so it's speculation at this point. But at some point, I personally believe that humanity earned the opportunity to self-evolve and to create our own destiny, so to speak.
I agree.
And that it's relatively hands-off, although there are species that want to see us succeed, and there are species that want to see us just get ground into the next generation of whatever happens to this planet.
So you're saying like there's also like the disagreements, maybe. between
As
the-
above, so below. I think that if there's multiple alien races with an interest in Earth, then it only stands to reason that there's multiple factions
Right.
that have different interests. But we've been approached just like he was talking about the aerial phenomenon. John Mack studied that. A lot of people really took a deep dive into that. And people are being contacted on an individual basis. And then there's all kinds of stories. None of them are absolute fact, but about presidents meeting with UFOs. The meeting with Eisenhower where they said, disarm your nukes and we'll give you the technology that'll change the world. And we said no. And so we're in a situation right now where our decisions
See,
are
I have a
governing
hard time
our outcome.
believing that.
I mean, they're disarming nukes. It happened in Russia.
No, I understand, but I have a hard time believing that president would say, like, especially Eisenhower, from all people in the world, like Eisenhower would say, like, no, we won't. Like, I mean, first of all, if alien beings tells me something, I'm effing doing that. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's an entity that's talking to me without opening his mouth. Like, I'm doing that, whatever he's saying.
Yeah, but you have to look
Like-
at it from our point of view. If we have an alien species that's got advanced technology telling us to disarm our most powerful weapons,
No, I understand.
that's
There's
not
a
something
fear,
that we're
you
just going
think,
to do.
yeah, but if they can do it anyway, then what's the point? Like, if they are
Well, they've
so
done it
advanced
many
that-
times.
We've done it.
Right?
Also
So-
in The Phenomenon on Unified
yeah.
TV.
Yeah, so I mean, I get this alien, aspect of things. Like I understand it. I think there is a legit, thought process there that we can go through.
I think it's one of the strongest layers of what's going on with those types of projects, because the implications, if it's true, is the biggest there is in the world.
Right.
It
If
changes-
it's true. Yes.
So if we play that of
Right.
if it's true,
If it's true.
that is the biggest deal to ever happen to this world, because it would change the world overnight.
Yeah.
I agree. I don't know. What you said kind of blew my mind. Like, why don't they come here? And like, we don't see them more
Right.
often. And like, it doesn't make sense. And that's why I think they're just spiritual beings. And I know that's a popular take.
I actually agree
and,
with that
and
more
because
than,
it
like,
just makes
outside
more
of
sense to me.
planet of some sorts. Like,
Because if they are these beings that can go 80,000 feet in seconds,
Right.
we would have seen them so many times.
We
Just-
did. There's been 12 million sightings over the past 10 years.
Yeah, but I've never seen it.
I've never seen it
if they're
either.
if they're that, like, they can move that quickly, and
Well, if
if
they're
it's a
moving that
whole-
quickly, you don't see them because they're moving so quickly your eye can't
Right.
actually do
I don't know. I don't know if
I-
I didn't see it as an argument.
No, I know.
I've never been to
I'm
Antarctica.
just saying, like, why isn't there more footage, and why isn't there?
It's just always sketchy.
It just
footage
doesn't make
to
sense
me.
sometimes.
Like,
I don't know.
With phenomena, I believe it, but it could be anything. Guess what? Like, I mean, people thought, and I know this because I come from a Soviet country. Like back in the day, get this, the story in like 60s guys of some sort. So this guy says he was kidnapped by an alien or whatever, but the alien came from the behind and, put hands on his, like, I'm like, are you kidding me? But back in the day, generations believed that because something was weird and somebody was experimenting on their minds and they were like, oh my gosh, this, like, it could be a big experiment.
You know, it's a shame. Take psychics. 95% of them are nonsense. It's all
Nonsense,
garbage.
absolutely.
But there are 5% that are amazing.
Yeah, it only takes one.
And if
But are they guessing? Because it's 5% of the time?
No,
Psychic.
I've had experiences that
I've never experienced. I'm just genuinely asking.
Yeah, and
I've
and we
had
should-
personal experiences with
Right.
individuals, and I've had personal experiences with myself. I'll give you a quick personal one in 2 seconds, where he's not a psychic at all. But my father, he had a crazy experience that ended landing somebody in jail. Wow. My cousin was hit by a car, hit and run. Nobody could find the car. My dad has a dream that night. True story. Has a dream. Nobody told him that my cousin was hit by a car. My mom comes home and he sees that she said, he said, what happened? And before she said it, he said, did David get hit by a car? She said, how'd you know? And he said, tell me the story. They said, we can't find him. We don't know the car. He said, I know the license plate. He remembered it in the dream. They found the guy, they arrested
No
him.
way. That is wild.
Is that luck? Is that guessing?
That's not
that.
guessing.
That's something we don't understand.
You can't
That's
guess
definitely
that.
not
Can't guess
luck. I
that.
believe that our minds are capable of much more. And not to get biblical here or anything, but it's said that we were created in the image of God, and we don't even know our own abilities. I believe that psychics can predict. I also believe that your dad did that. I also believe that
By
our
accident.
mind. Yeah, but our minds are so brilliant, Jason, right? Like I feel like we are beings that are capable of much more. That's another aspect of things. Like, do they know? Do these other entities know what we are capable of? Are we suppressed for a reason? Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, that's another thing. Like, I mean, this can take us very far.
Well, there's a
right?
lot of talk of that we have these abilities that
Right.
other species envy or at least want to study. There's stuff out there floating around that addresses that. But one of the things that's the elephant in the room is you're bringing up biblical and traditional spiritual
Right.
teachings in relation to this stuff. Non-human intelligence has been described interacting with humanity since we've had the ability to describe it.
100%.
So you go back to every single spiritual teaching, every one of significance, they tell us two common things. One, that this reality is an illusion. And two, that there are non-human beings that are outside of this reality that interact with us. In some religions, they're angels and demons. In some religions, they're the jinn. So what you have here is a commonality.
Right.
That we're seeing all this stuff through different filters now because we've evolved as a species. So, what used to be, chariots in the sky or flying carpets or vimanas, now they're flying saucers because we're looking at it through the technology
Lens.
through
Yeah,
the technology
absolutely.
lens.
Yeah.
And so, all of these ancient teachings are coming forth with commonalities. We have the commonality that we need to treat each other better. We need to live with love instead of anger. We need to do things on this planet that we have been being told since we got the 10 Commandments and even before that.
Exactly.
So it
Every
all
religion
ties
talks
together.
about this. Says exact same
And then
thing.
it gets into the nature of reality.
Right.
That in my new movie, we cover all the stuff in Washington, D.C., and I'm not trying to plug the film. But
Plug
You're
the film.
welcome to plug the film.
called Accidental Truth next. We cover all my adventures in
Right.
Washington, D.C., being behind the scenes
Right.
with all the stuff that's happened with Congress, my meetings with Congress people, the briefings I did, the way we hacked the last hearings, and all that in the film.
Tell us about that. Excuse me. Tell us about, like, for example, we are interested in terms of UFOs, right? Okay, so I spoke to a few Congress people about this, but like I said, I have my doubts because everything defers to, well, I didn't see it myself, but I was told.
Right,
Okay,
yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, so tell us about it. Like,
Well, there are people that have hands-on experience with these programs
Right.
that want to come forward, but they're scared. And so I know that there's a whole lot of whistleblower types that are above the level that we're seeing testify that do want to come forward, but they just the groundwork for them to do it safely has not been laid yet. Because there's all kinds of laws and regulations. If you're going to go forth with classified material, you still have to go through this process. And what's happening now is as soon as somebody with genuine classified material goes into Arrow, instead of Arrow going, oh yeah, yeah, let's help you go public. They persecute them and try to strip them of their clearances.
Whistleblowers end up in jail nowadays, which was not the case and
Or
should
dead.
not be. Yeah, or dead.
But that was a sidetrack. What I was trying to say in our film and in the direction this is all going in is we're only going to get so much out of Washington, D.C. We're only going to get so much out of the government. It's the experiencers. It's the things that are happening to people on an individual level that are going to provide us the real answers moving forward. And so then we get into what is the whole nature of reality. You know, we've got this simulation theory that's just right in front of our face, and it's looking like it's going to pan out. So we're basically, you know, we're spiritual beings having a human experience inside literally the cosmic version of a video game. And how does that play into all of this? And then we have AI. And what is that? And how long has it been here? And what is its purpose? And so this whole thing, you know, we started Area 51, and the can of worms and the rabbit hole just gets so big. We could sit in this room and talk for 100 days and still not scratch the surface of how deep this is and how important it is to what's going to happen to us. Because when we start to grasp all this stuff in some digestible manner, it's going to open up so many eyes that we're going to be overwhelmed as a race, or a lot of people are just going to retreat into their iPhones. You know, it's one or the other. But
The nature of reality,
the nature of reality.
not for this conversation, is one of my favorite ones.
Oh yeah, it's my favorite topic. My first video series was called Bigger Questions. We covered all that stuff 20 years ago.
It's incredible.
Do you guys ever wonder, like, there's probably thousands of people working with all of this stuff. How aren't there more people that see this stuff and be like, this is so insane, I'm willing to lose my life for it, I have to show the world, and somehow just devise a plan to like show something? Obviously, I know it's showing they probably can't take their phones or whatever it is, but how are there not more whistleblowers? Like, how are there not more Bob Lazars of the world?
Because they're threatening their families, and you know, if you come out right now, it's common knowledge. You'll lose your security clearance. You lose your retirement. You might go to prison.
You lose everything.
And I call them the men in a box. They might have said, hey, I worked on flying saucers, but if they can't prove it, they're just another guy who just destroyed their entire life to tell a story they can't prove. And so they have to live with this.
And they'll put their families first.
Right.
Yeah.
And these are...
And they make sure they can't prove it, too. There's no way they're getting footage of any of it.
I mean,
So
they
it makes
almost...
I mean, even if they
erased
could,
Bob
okay, so you have a
Lazar.
picture or video. How do you know it's not fake? How do you know it's not
Exactly.
AI?
Now, AI, now we're good with AI. No one's even going to try. Why would you?
Also, they can check the reality of the video and they can analyze that, but it's not even about that, guys. Like, I mean, look at Bob Lazar. They practically deleted the guy.
Yeah.
Like, they deleted his existence.
That should tell you everything you need to know.
Right away. And, you know, talking
But
about
we
that,
learned
it's actually,
so much.
You want to hear something cool? So you said there are thousands of people working on this stuff, like in Area 51 and different places.
Has to be.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Do you want to know how they get transported? Well, guys.
Tell me like blindfolded.
No, it's actually...
They get teleported, actually.
That's funny. So they don't need to. So there's you know, when you have thousands of people, like, you can trust them because, you know, even though they are scientists, like, we all know, I'm sure we had at some point in our life some connection with the scientists that they are the dumbest, most educated people on earth. Like, it's crazy. So these people need attention, a lot of it. They need to be transported safely to one place to another, from A to B. And lo and behold, there's an airlines actually called Janet Airlines. The airline's name is not Janet. It's a call sign.
That's his nickname, yeah.
Yeah, it's a nickname. I'm sure you know. So Janet Airlines operates from Nevada, from Las Vegas, and it has like a 737 Boeings or something like that, like big jumbo jets that transfers. It does 20 rounds a day, guys. And it transfers personnel for Area 51 and other secret bases, and it comes back in the same spot, like 20 different rounds a day. And Janet Airlines has no name. When they are in flight, at some point they turn off their transponder, so people don't know where they are going. They land, and they keep doing this over and over again. What's crazy is that it's practically owned by, like, Air Force, but Air Force does not operate them. So the company that used to operate them was AG&G, and this is the same company that helped develop nuclear weapon. And then, of course, like, you know, elites like to transfer power from hand to hand so you can never track them. From AG&G, we got like million other companies that kind of inherited operating Janet Airlines. And there's a joke that's going on about this Janet Airlines that it means just another non-existing terminal. That's your Janet Airlines. It's
So
actually,
that's been
yeah.
common knowledge for a while. They fly the Area 51 employees from the airport in Las Vegas to there.
How long is the flight?
It's very short.
Very-
It's less than 40 minutes in the air. I think it's like a half hour.
But it's crazy. They operate such big jumbo jets. Like, can you imagine
Well,
how many
they've
people go
got
every,
a lot of
like,
people.
yeah, a
you
lot
know,
of people
and
to
so,
transfer.
you know,
Yeah,
you just
and
add
track.
it to your work day. It's a 10-hour day instead of an 8-hour day. And, you know, one thing I've always thought would be really fun is to
Right.
go hang out, because these people that get off these planes have to go to
Right.
their
That's
cars.
what I'm saying.
right?
You got to see them, right?
You know, and
I
so
thought about
What do you know
that.
about aliens?
if you want to
Don't
meet
tell.
somebody that can tell you, but they'd have to kill you, that's where you meet them. You know,
Right.
they're coming off the plane one right after the other.
This should be another project of Unified TV, just like going and like being a
cool.
little spy over there. Like, well, first of all, you can see their faces because they are coming out of those planes and they are loading the planes with these people. So if someone wanted to, they probably could. Just saying, just putting a thought out there.
I-
That
I
just
just-
sounds like something that doesn't end well.
They've
really.
got to be escorted by security or something.
You'll disappear somewhere. But yeah, so guys, to kind of sum up this topic, what's going on Area 51, other than just usual mess that CIA got us into, like, and gets us into every single month?
We know for sure, it's public knowledge, a lot of the stuff that's going
Right.
on at Area 51. But we also can surmise from people like Bob Lazar and others that there's been, if there's something super classified and it has to do with ET or non-human craft and
Right.
intelligence, it's a given that Area 51 has had involvement in that. Bob Lazar, when he broke his story about working on craft, he was able to take people out and show them these things doing all kinds of stuff that airplanes can't do.
And he mentioned like he was working for S4.
S4,
right?
yeah,
Like-
it's supposedly like
right.
another sub base close to the Area 51 base where they've got hangars built into the side of a mountain so you can't see them, where they're stored these craft. Now, a lot of people think that because Area 51 got so much publicity, they moved it to other places like Dugway.
Right.
But I
Rapid
think
base.
if we're trying to wrap up Area 51 without opening up the other giant can of worms, Area 51 has basically, at some point, been a catch-all
Right.
for all of the things that have to do with experimenting with non-human intelligence from the time it was built until probably now.
Right.
Do you think there are UFOs and aliens in Area 51 or no? Or
I think there's
something of
probably
this-
been at some point. I don't know if you have an alien being, you're going to take him to a facility that's going to be designed to take the best possible care of him. So they might have passed through. I don't know if they have them still alive in some underground room, but there's lots of evidence and stories
Right.
about living beings that came from some of these crash retrievals.
What do you think?
I'll just leave everybody off with look into something called Element 115.
Oh, yeah.
It's connected to Bob Lazar
Yep.
and what he found. I don't think he ever learned how to stabilize it. But according to him, stabilizing Element 115 as a part of his reverse engineering or craft, which was part of his story,
Right.
is how they create a piece of that anti-gravitational propulsion. So what do I think about Area 51? I think there's a million different things going on. I think, Ron, you bring up a good point in terms of it may have been more extraterrestrial focused in the past, but it's known for that at this point. And for that
they
reason,
would
if I was there, I would move it. So I'm sure that they're working on a lot of interesting projects, good projects and bad projects all at the same time. Some things can help us progress collectively. Some things are more selfishly oriented
Right.
in terms of what they're doing. And I think we really need to learn how to filter because, and this will be my last sort of thing, but take a bad person. Take Hitler. Hitler, bad person, great leader. You can't have a bad leader leading people to kill 20 million people,
27.
whatever. But you understand
These
what
are
I'm
my
saying?
people. I know the number.
So what I'm saying
Yes.
is you're having like,
Yeah.
when we learn
I
how to filter
Totally agree.
CIA,
Right.
any agency out there, the Mossad also, there are
Right.
bad people in there, there are good people in there.
Right.
There are bad things going on at Area 51, there are good things going on in Area
Right.
51. And instead of creating a blanket statement, which I think is a very dangerous thing to do, of it's all bad because the CIA is a part of it, there may actually be some really interesting like
Development.
evolutionary
Yeah, of course,
developments
of
going
course.
on there. But we also have to be aware of the other side of the filter.
Right.
Of there are bad people in power.
And the question of is it worth it? That what we do. That's another thing, right? So it all has to be worth it.
The last thing I'll say is I think what we're seeing right now in the world, to both of your points, is if we keep waiting for the government or whatever to come and tell us something, we'd be really stupid. We're living in a
can't.
time where we have the power to do that. And I know it's been comfortable to wait for, the Associated Press to say this happened, but that's not the times we're actually living in anymore. The times that we're living in are, and COVID showed this to us, we're living in times of we need to focus on our own experiences and take it from there. COVID was based on our own experiences. If we listened only to the media, what would it have said? Vaccines are amazing. Everybody else that's anti it is stupid, and you're good to go. And why did we get to the other side? It's not just because of the science. What led us to understand the science? The people getting hurt. In this case, if it comes to extraterrestrial life, the people having experiences, and there are some crazy people, but there's some serious people too. So I think we got to filter. I think we got to focus on our own experiences. I think we got to use both intuition and logic, because one without the other is always dangerous. And we may make mistakes along the way, but it will bring us ultimately to that destiny that we were talking about.
In the last part of the first intro to the upcoming film, we actually have fast forward to 100 years from now. They're reflecting on this period in human history. And they say we have to embrace the impossible to understand the unexplainable.
Absolutely.
And this esoteric nature of things, we cannot solve these issues. We can't puzzle this out without starting to take that stuff way more seriously. And on Element 115, and Bob Lazar talked about Element 115, there was no Element 115. And then all of a sudden they find an Element 115 and it matches. It's the same characteristics that he described. So to me, that the Element 115 is a very important part of the story. Totally cool.
And for you guys, you can take it all in right now. We tried to kind of give you everything that we could. We gave you the military aspect of things. We gave you the secrecy, aliens, spiritual beings, all of that. So take it in and comment. What do you think?